The Biden administration ordered to stop selling border wall materials after a Texas court intervened. Officials have been auctioning off parts of the wall since at least 2023 after halting construction back in 2021. President-elect Trump slamming the sales. He calls them almost criminal, saying taxpayers will pay double to rebuild it. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton calls this a victory for border security. Trump's incoming border czar, Tom Homan, also reacting. Watch.
The courts have ordered them to stop, and it's disgusting that they're going to take that border wall, which like you just said, we pay top dollar for, and selling it for pennies on the dollar. Now we got to rebuy it. It's ridiculous. However, a little bit of good news: one of the companies actually reached out to me, willing to give us that border wall products back at what they paid for it, the pennies on the dollar, giving us back for the same price. So I think Ken Paxton, the AG in Texas, took immediate action. I know I've been working with Lindsey Graham, taking immediate action. So right now, I think we got them stopped. But it's insulting. They wait 4 years just before we take control to sell a main piece of our plan to secure that border.
Well, let's bring in former acting ICE director and former U.S. Border Patrol chief and deputy commissioner Ronald Vitiello. And Ronald, your thoughts on this? Because it's my understanding that many of these components are still usable and salvageable. And as we know, President Trump, and of course with the help of Texas in particular, wants to build the wall, finish the wall in many parts.
I think we're all grateful that Texas and the Trump transition team and folks like Tom Homan are working on this problem and got it to a place in court where a judge stopped this insanity. So it may or might not be criminal to sell government property for pennies on the dollar, but it is criminally insane. The Biden administration lost this election. Biden-Harris lost this election in large part because of what they did on the border, their feckless policies in ripping all the control levels down, including stopping building the wall on day one, which really hurt the operations of the Border Patrol. In the early days of the Biden administration, they were frozen in place as it related to border wall construction projects, even previously approved construction projects where agents, instead of patrolling the border, seizing drugs, saving people from human trafficking, had to guard open spaces on the wall because the Biden administration put a wrench in all of the construction progress on day one. Now, right before the transition, they're taking what the taxpayers' money was used. Congress appropriated this money. That means it's taxpayers' money to construct these pieces, have them delivered on site at the border, and they're trying to sell them, knowing full well that the new president is going to want to reinstall wall panels and continue the work that they did in Trump 1.0. It is criminally insane.
Yeah, well, and that is exactly why, this is becoming a legal issue. Let's talk about Mexico, because what they're doing now is they're developing an app to help illegal migrants living in the United States. So it would alert families and American consulates if they are facing deportation. It's called Alert Button. They're expected to debut it next month. It allows any illegal migrant with questions to contact a call center set up by the Mexican government. Now, all of this is in response to President-elect Trump's promise of mass deportations on day one of his new administration. Texas Department of Public Safety Lieutenant Christopher Olivares shared this disturbing story. Two little girls, they were 5 and 9, they were found abandoned in Eagle Pass by a smuggler who fled back to Mexico. They were left with only a note and an address. They've since been put in Border Patrol custody. Ronald, give us your reaction to this, in particular, this move by Mexico and this app.
Well, your heart goes out to these little kids, and it just gives you an example of how people are exploited and how ruthless smugglers can be to leave little children out in the brush like that. It's a terrible thing. And it's happened by the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands under the Biden administration. With regard to Mexico and this app, they need to do more domestically than to worry about the people that are in the United States that are also part of Mexico that they're about to be deported. Mexico and our relationship with Mexico is complex. It's complementary at times, but this is an area in which, because of the leverage that they know is going to be applied to them, our economies are inextricably linked, and so 4% of their economy depends on remittances from Mexico. That's $56 billion a year that's sent from the United States into Mexico by people who are here both legally and illegally. So having an understanding of that population and being able to do what they can do to facilitate people's repatriations is one thing, but encouraging it and giving people incentives that are here in the United States, that's where that line gets crossed. And so I look forward to a Trump administration where they're asking Mexico to do things. He got them to do, in Trump 1.0, he got them to do things I had never seen before. It ended up to be a good relationship in regards to its effectiveness in operations. I look forward to day one in the Trump 2.0, in which Mexico becomes a full partner in sharing the responsibility. But hey, if they don't, well, the economic power that we wield in this discussion and in the hemisphere will have to be used against them, because we cannot continue to have this chaos at the border. And we're not going to outsource this problem to Mexico, but they certainly share a responsibility to protect their own citizens, both at the line and in the country.
And they're being threatened with tariffs. And that is why this app is an interesting move by the Mexican government, whether or not they're trying to help keep these migrants in the United States, I think, is my question mark. We'll know when we get more details about what the app is actually offering to them. I want to ask you about this. Tesla chief Elon Musk is calling for reform to the H-1B visa program. He faced online criticism for his initial support of it. Here's what he wrote on X. The program is easily fixed by raising the minimum salary significantly and adding a yearly cost for maintaining the H-1B, making it materially more expensive to hire from overseas than domestically hiring. This comes a day after Musk told his followers he would go to war on the issue. So some folks online are arguing that these visas take jobs from Americans. Others say they're essential to attract top talent and boost innovation. Now, President-elect Trump also supporting H-1B visas. He told the New York Post, quote, "I've always liked the visas. I've always been in favor of the visas. That's why we have them. I have many H-1B visas on my properties. I've been a believer in H-1B. I've used it many times. It's a great program." Ronald, I want to get your reaction, because the question mark, can we reform H-1B visas to where they're not as punitive against the participant, but also the company that hires them? Meaning that these H-1B visas should let these participants open themselves up to the free market, to competition versus sponsorship. That would be better for companies that are trying to compete for these hires.
That's a very good point, Cheryl. You have the richest man on the planet, and you have the incoming president-elect both saying what? The immigration system, regardless whether it's visas for non-immigrants or immigration for people who are going to come and stay, that needs to promote the American economy. It needs to promote American safety. And so both men are saying immigration into the United States is good in general terms, but it needs to be on terms that benefit Americans the most. So regularize the pay of people who are coming in so that there's not a real competition between people who are already here that have the same skills versus people that are imported for overseas and get used and abused and then sent back home. So both men are saying exactly the same thing. They're saying we want the immigration system in the United States to function on behalf of America. At the border, that means we want it safe and secure. We want travel and trade between our partners in the hemisphere, both Mexico and Canada. But as regards to the industries in the United States, if they're going to import workers for whatever reason, we want those workers to benefit the American economy, to benefit America writ large. And that's the richness, in my opinion, of this discussion. Both men are leaning in on saying, yes, immigration is the big part of our economy, but let's make sure that that economy works for every American, not just the people who are benefiting from these programs.
Smart immigration, absolutely. Ronald Vitiello, thank you, Ronald. Appreciate it.
Thank you.